Hello and welcome. I'm your host Tyler here with
Nick.
And you're listening to Makeshift Meeples, where we won't teach you how to play board games, we just talk about them. Nick, what are we playing today?
This week on Makeshift Meeples, Foretold, Rise of a God.
Foretold, Rise of a God is designed by Jay Seymourrid and published by Apotheosis Games and Legion Supplies, with art by Garrett Post.
Players will take on the role of aspiring deities. They must build up a temple, gather faithful followers, and collect powerful relics in an attempt to take out their opponents. On each turn, you'll reveal new cards into the marketplace, purchase cards or temple tiles, raid opposing temples, and then reset your raiding and temple hands.
Hello everyone. I'm really happy to be here this week, and I want to thank everybody for your support on our last video.
For sure.
Actually,
podcast. It's not a video, dude.
Well, we have a link to watch the video on Facebook, so
Yeah, that's true.
but that's all they give us access to do. But we really appreciate your feedback and your support. If you like our video or our audio, the best way to help us out is by sharing it with a friend. Really help us grow that way. But Nick, we're talking about Foretold, Rise of a God this week.
Yeah.
And so what'd you think about it?
It was a very interesting game. And I think that there's some fun parts of this game, but there were also some parts that I didn't enjoy as well. And I think we'll kind of get into that a little bit more as we start talking more about the game. But I genuinely think the big reason I didn't enjoy this game was completely on me, because before we played the game, I did a little reading, and I found out that there's kind of an alternate win con to the game, where like if you collect 4 relics from a single thing, you also win the game. And so going into it, my mindset was, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to do this alternate win con and just see what happens. And the more we got into the game, and I was way too stubborn in my resolve to win that way, it's really hard, and it is an alternate win con. It is not the way the game is meant to be played.
I think that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, the main way you win in this game is to eliminate your opponents. There's no point values on cards. I don't think victory point is mentioned anywhere at any time in the game.
I don't think there is a victory point in this game,
No, that's kind of refreshing. I think the last couple of games we played all had victory point win conditions. And that goes to say that there's no round limit in this game either.
Correct.
So you just play until everybody's dead or until one player collects 4 relics of the same fate. I actually thought that the game was going to play a lot like Ascension or another deck builder.
It is a deck builder to a certain extent.
Yeah, actually that's a good way they frame it, in a sense that it's a deck builder with a tower defense component, is what I think I've heard the game sold as. And the tower defense component comes from the tiles that you can purchase and place. And the temple really matters for a lot of things. It seems superfluous when you're just looking at it, but it limits how many cards you can have in your hand because there's symbols on the tiles. And it also limits the amount of special relics that you can have,
Of course.
based upon the symbols on the tiles once again. But there's
It limits your hand size. Like, that's probably the biggest part of your temple, too, in my opinion.
Well, we only played with 3 players this week, and the third player didn't actually focus on building their temple up.
No.
They focused on buying a lot of followers that were really good at attacking.
And he ended up winning it, too. I mean, that's worth noting. Like, he might have gotten, like, 1 card size increase to his hand, but that's it.
Well, I actually felt that was kind of odd, because the temple only limits your hand size for your temple hand.
Right.
But in this game, you have 2 hands, and the raiding hand is not limited by your temple size, so you could just load it with guys to attack people, and then only buy maybe like 4 points of cards every turn.
That was something that, after playing and thinking about the game a little more, I thought was a little bit off balance. And part of me thought, like, you could easily house rule that whatever your hand size is, using air quotes, is both the limit of your temple hand and your raiding hand. And I think that helps to not stem like somebody just chucking everything into the raiding. But then again, it is a game about attacking players, so do you want to limit that?
Yeah, and I don't think that it's very intuitive when you first play the game, because most games, I would say, aren't about attacking players specifically.
Right.
So it's, like I said, a breath of fresh air because it's different, But if you're not used to playing that way, or you're not really in for and take that kind of game, it can feel kind of bad.
Yeah. And that's something like I think, again, part of the reason I didn't enjoy playing this game as much was I was not in the mindset to be attacking people and being attacked, and I just wasn't. I didn't enjoy it because I wasn't ready for that aspect of the game, which is like the whole game. So,
well, you didn't get attacked until the very end. So
yes.
we only had 3 players. I got attacked by everybody the entire game, and it was fine.
I didn't attack. Well, I did attack.
Yeah, you attacked me with your guard.
Yeah, I sent one guy. I was like, oh, he doesn't make it. He comes home.
And I think he beat me in a combat once. Yeah. But yeah, the
by mistake. I beat you by mistake.
The interesting thing about defending in this game is that you don't actually consume the cards for each time you get raided. You only consume the cards for each time a character defends, but then you can reset your temple, I guess, after you get raided. So it's not like if every player decides to focus on one guy, they're just going to take him out. You can still defend against him. Now, they might take him out mentally because the combat math in this game, while it's just simple addition, can get tedious. Actually felt like I was kind of like I was calculating numbers like I would in Munchkin. I don't know, and I haven't played Munchkin in years, so it's kind of traumatic to have those flashbacks. But a lot of the math in this game is like, I'll roll my dice and then assign them to these guys. This is my base number, and then I'm going to play this card from my hand that does this. Maybe it adds some bonuses or takes some bonus away from you. And then somebody else, like the opposing player, might be, well, now I'm going to add +2 to that and +1 to that. And so it's just a bunch of like, add 1 here, add 2 there, subtract all big number there. And players that aren't being rated can also add bonuses too.
Yeah. Like you can throw in on somebody's defense or attack to make it go the way you want it to go. So there's a little bit of politics in this game,
There could be, yeah. There could be. Even though there can only be one Nick. There can only be one deity at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And I was not that one.
No.
But that's okay.
I was not either.
That's okay. I'll rise again. Maybe if I play the game again, I'll come back.
So that was something, I told you I was going to throw something at you. And last night while I was thinking about this recording, it came to me that the closest collaboration I could think of was if somebody played Boss Monster and then played Munchkin and decided they wanted to throw those games together.
Oh, you thought of that? You thought of Munchkin? So what's interesting is I actually don't really like either of those games.
Yeah.
So maybe this just wasn't my style. I didn't mind playing Foretold, but I think that I would really have to give it another try before I could say if I didn't like it or not.
Yeah, and again, I think I didn't enjoy it, but I feel like the reason I didn't enjoy it was because of how I mentally went into this game thinking I was going to play it. And I just had too many preconceived notions of what I wanted to do in the game before just realizing it's a game about attacking your opponents. You need to attack your opponents. That's how you win the game. This other thing is truly an alternate win con. And the other part of it is really difficult because there are a lot of relics in this deck. There's only 4 from each, I don't know, whatever.
They're called fates.
Yeah, fates. There's only 4 of each one. So you have to get all of them out of the deck. And in the 3-player game, we got maybe 2/3 of the way through. So I think you would need at least 4 players to really have a solid chance of collecting all of this.
I think that's a good point because I noticed that I was actually going to go for the alternate win con at the beginning too. So I purchased the first Fate relic that I saw, and it was helpful, but it didn't really push me that far in the lead. And then we were revealing Fate cards so slow, or sorry, I said Fate cards, I meant relic cards, that we just never saw any that that I was looking for. So I actually changed the Fate win condition that I was going for. But in this game, if you change the Fate relic that you want to achieve, the Fate relic win condition, you have to return all the Fate relics you own back to the market because you can only have one Fate type at a time, which I guess kind of makes sense that maybe
you can only be supporting one Fate at a time.
Yeah, and I actually think there's some cool thematic themes that go along with that. There's like a story behind the game, kind of like the Fates were there originally before the gods, and then you're becoming a god, and so you have to use the Fates to your advantage to wipe out the rest of you. So it makes sense, kind of. But in gameplay, I just wanted to buy cool relics and actually activate their abilities and see if I could put combos together.
Yeah.
But they didn't. It's like the game didn't want me to play that way.
That was something else that I thought about is like the different fates, as much as they do have a clear identity, like each one of them does something very different. The faithful that go along with those fates, there wasn't really any synergy between like, well, if I'm going for the blue fate, these blue faithful that I'm going to put in my hand will help me achieve that. And they did similar-ish things, but they didn't like work off of each other as much as I thought they would.
I actually think you're right about that, and I thought a lot about that too, because I had multiple characters from different faiths, multiple followers, I think is what they're called, or faithful. And one of them was from the Wisdom Fate, and his ability on the card said, when I assign a D6 to him, then I can draw a Fate card.
Yeah.
So it's like I get extra cards for participating in combat, but I would assume this Faithful, because he's not like a combat-oriented Fate card, combat-oriented Faithful, that he wouldn't want to go into combat. I would want to use him to gain gold. So it felt like there was anti-synergy.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just because of my own preconceptions. I think the game really incentivizes you to attack players, so what you're supposed to do is build your deck to attack players, not necessarily to buy Faithful.
Yeah.
You think
But I mean,
maybe
at the
that's
same
accurate?
time, like, the best attackers are in the faithful deck.
Yeah.
So you have to have a way to purchase them.
Well, so we overviewed this a little bit, but you have two hands in this game, and you always get to choose what cards go into your respective hands. So your raiding hand and your temple hand, you buy cards with your temple hand, and you also defend from raids with your temple hand. So you can always make sure that you have ways to collect gold if you want to. Now, if there are certain faithful that are really good at attacking and buying gold, maybe you'd want to change that up, that distribution up. But I never felt like I did, and I don't even think the player that won did. He always just put two berserkers in his raiding party and could attack with them all game.
Which is partially on us, because we had the opportunity to buy those cards, and we didn't, because that's not the way we were trying to play the game. So I think there was a multitude of issues with how both of us kind of approached the game, I think, that made it really lopsided in the end. But I think if you playing this again, I would definitely concentrate on the attacking other players, and I think that might help even it out a little bit. I don't know how much that would improve enjoyment of play, but I think it would at least make the game more competitive between the three of us or whoever was playing.
So there's some interesting mechanic I really did want to talk about, and it's when you reveal Faithful at the beginning of the turn, and you also reveal relics at the beginning of the turn.
Yeah.
If you don't have a spot to put them in on the board, then it will overlay, the card you reveal will overlay that. So you place the relic or the follower on the board, and it covers the spot that another relic or follower is on.
Correct.
So it's almost like you're telling a story. Maybe that's me imprinting thematically on it, but like think about it, like the hoplite comes out and then something else gets put on top of him, and then you have to go through all the layers on top of that to actually find the item or the follower you're trying to get to.
Yeah, and I will say there was a couple of really good the fate cards or whatever that they would let you kind of like recycle stuff or like put stuff back into the deck. If you couldn't buy it or didn't want your opponent to be able to buy it, there was ways to get stuff out of the marketplace back into the deck if you wanted to. And there was also ways to like reduce the cost of stuff in the marketplace. A lot of those typical kind of deck builder mechanics that are out there in terms of how do we make things easier to buy.
I do agree. I think that some of the faithful cards might have been a little unbalanced too. But that's a separate topic.
Was there a specific one that you thought was just a little out of whack?
Well, since this game is all about attacking, I felt like the Chaos Faithful cards, or followers, I keep forgetting the title, but
Faithful.
They just felt a little overpowered because the whole game wants you to attack, and maybe the trade-off balance is that they're not good at purchasing other cards.
They are not.
But if you're always just putting them in your raiding party and you're never...
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to purchase a bunch of cards with Berserkers or Warlocks.
Yeah. No.
But they had some cool titles, and I actually liked the simple naming conventions and style of this game.
Yeah.
It felt kind of like it was a generic fantasy game, but at the same time, I don't think you want to put too much theme into this style of game.
Yeah, I think that it's really easy for a deck builder like this to be overloaded with theme and it not to come through. I think that they used a theme that matched up with what they wanted the game to be, and it works out pretty good actually. I was pleasantly surprised with that. The other thing I was going to say while we were talking about the cards, last week we had Wingspan, and we talked about how much information there is on a single card and how they do a really good job with it. This is another game that the card layout I think is pretty good. It's pretty straightforward. The things you need to see are easily accessible, and it's just pretty straightforward. And it's got a lot of neat background to it. They look like old parchments, so it's a decent looking game as well.
Yeah, I think that the layout of the cards in terms of interface that you have with the game makes it easily identifiable when to play a card, what the card does. I know there was a lot of questions during the game. Can you flip a tile during specific parts? And could you use a fate card during specific parts of the game? But almost every fate card says what it does or when to play it.
Yeah.
And I think that really made the game easy to understand for new players. They didn't really use a lot of symbols other than the ones on the tiles.
Yep.
And all the symbols that they did use were like gold, or they referenced military power, so it was pretty intuitive.
I think there's only really three. The altars, which let you have more relics, the people that let you have larger hand size, and the gold storage, which is one tile.
Yeah, which is actually, that brings up a good point. The gold storage tile seemed irrelevant because in the rules it says this is a gold storage tile where you store gold between rounds, but you could use that gold whenever you wanted, but there's no rule for players in your temple to take gold.
Didn't you say there was like a home rule that you found?
It was on Board Game Geek. They recommended that you could discard a follower in your raid group to gain a gold for every follower you discard. So instead of attacking the player and smiting them for damage, you can
steal
gain
their
gold, and it speeds up the game. I thought that was really clever, but there's no rule in the book. I actually think if they maybe put more of those symbols on the tiles, then limited the amount of gold you could store between round per those symbols you had on tiles, that would have made more sense to me.
Yeah.
But
I think I would really like that rule being introduced into the game, to be honest with you, because there's definitely rounds that it's like, especially early on, it's like, I have one dude that I'm going to send at you. If I can steal gold from you, cool. Otherwise, I'm literally rolling, and I don't really care if he gets through, you know? Until you've got a decent military power to get in and do some damage, you're not really doing a lot with it. So it kind of seemed the first round or two that part of the game was non-climactic at all.
Well, another part of this game that I felt was very interesting but didn't really work the way I wanted it to was building the temples. Because you can buy a random temple tile for 3 gold during the marketplace phase, but you only get the tile that's on top. You don't get an option to dig deep, or you can't even look at the tile. It's flipped upside down. So
I did have a guy that let me look at the top 2.
So there are cards.
There's
that
a faithful that lets you do it.
But if you just want to blind buy a tile, then you're stuck with whatever you have. And I think it's cool that you can get random tiles and build your temple differently. But if you're looking for a specific tile to increase your hand size or add an altar so that you can buy relics, it can be very difficult to find what you're looking for. You're just wasting gold, and you're limited to how many tiles you can have in your temple. So it's kind of just like you're guessing.
I think that if you amended the rule to be like you look at the top 2 tiles and pick one, and then that one particular character that I had, maybe you say, okay, you can look at 3 then, because his ability was to look at the top 2 tiles, pick one. And I think I feel like we're adding a lot of home rules to improve this game really quick. But I think letting him go to 3 and pick one is a better option. But I agree, like there was times that I bought tiles and I'm like, well, I guess I have this now.
Yeah, or some tiles you buy are dead ends, but they have stations, which technically add to your hand size, which is good. But if they're dead ends, nobody's going to go there, so you can't use the station to defend.
Yeah, I think we didn't really explore the tower defense aspect of this game very much until like it was almost over, really, to be honest with you. But having the right tiles in the right places and like forcing your opponents to travel around your little temple is going to be an interesting thing that I almost want to try this game again just to see what I can do with that. I don't think any of us really defended particularly well, but I think that was also a product of, in defense in this game, you are severely limited in what you can do.
That's true.
And I think that this game has all of the advantage to the attacker and the aggressive player, which, I mean, it's a game about attacking your opponents, so it should have some advantage that way. But the defense at times just felt pointless. You know, like, okay, I've got somebody coming at me, they have 7 cards in their raiding party. I can defend with 2 at this location.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely put the advantage on the attacker and not on the defender. So maybe there's another house rule we can add there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like this is a game that I wanted it to be better than it was, and I think we're house ruling a lot of things to improve the game, and I don't know if I want to spend the time playtesting it to find out if those house rules work or not.
Well, Nick, we've house ruled the crap out of this game. We both admit that we think it could be better, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think at the end of the day, this game is good to try.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that it could have done a little bit better.
I'll be real honest with you. Like, I actually would like to try playing this game again, just to see if going into it with the right mindset improves the play for me.
Maybe next time, Nick. Maybe next time, Nick. But that's it for. Thank you for listening to Makeshift Meeples.
You can see more about our upcoming shows on our website, makeshiftmeeples.com, as well as offer us feedback or contact us about games you would like to see on the show.
If you enjoyed the episode, there are a number of ways you can help us keep this thing going.
Share this episode with a friend.
Hit that subscribe button so that you're notified of future episodes.
Like and follow us on social media.
And you can support us on the Patreon and Anchor app.